Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of The Night Show. I am your host and athletic director, Mr. Michael Fahey. We have an awesome episode for you today, but before I introduce that guest and move forward with the episode, I wanted to touch base on a couple things that are pertinent and relevant to IC Catholic Prep Athletics. So first, I want to talk a little bit about what the Illinois Department of Public Health came out with yesterday, Friday, January 22nd. Originally, there was no path for the high-risk sports to compete this year unless we got out and into Phase 5. But yesterday, the Illinois Department of Public Health cleared that path and made it possible for our high-risk sports of boys and girls basketball, football, hockey, boys lacrosse, and wrestling to compete if we reach Phase 4. Now, we are in Tier 2 right now, and I'll scroll down to talk a little bit about that because it can get confusing with the levels of risk, the levels of play, and also the current mitigation tiers and phases too. So a lot to go over here. So let's dive in. So we go up here and we look at our high risk sports that we just went over, our moderate risk or medium risk sports for us as boys and girls soccer and volleyball. Right, and girls volleyball. The low risk sports, I move me over here. The low risk sports we run into baseball, bass fishing, bowling, competitive cheer, competitive dance, cross country we already did. We already did golf. You're looking at sideline spirit, softball. Swim we competed in already. We already competed in girls tennis, and then track and field is left to play. So those are our high, medium, or moderate and low risk sports. And then you get into the levels of play, right? You have no contact practices and trainings only. So you could hold a practice, but you can have no contact between student athletes. And then you get to level 2. And those are intra-squad scrimmages. And some of our sports were in this level last fall, earlier in the year. With parental consent, we can have intra-squad scrimmage. So volleyball and then basketball before it moved to high risk was doing some of this. As you can see also up above, 7-on-7 football right here is moderate. So that's the workaround for football to be able to compete a little bit intra-squad scrimmages. And then level 3 is within conference of the Metro Suburban. And then in region, which we are region 8, that's DuPage and Kane County. And then you get into level 4, and then it's pretty much wide open to who you can play within the state of Illinois. Even out-of-state play is allowed. And now we get to the now you bring it all together, really. Risks, levels, mitigations. So we just got out of Tier 3, which was pause all activity. And now we are in Tier 2. So right now, Tier 2, those low-risk sports could play. Medium-risk sports are back to inter-squad scrimmages with parental consent. So like a volleyball or a boys and girls soccer. And then the high-risk sports are still in level 1, which is no contact practices. But as you move along, you can see if we get to Phase 4, which we do have a couple steps to get there, but there are 3 regions already in the state of Illinois out of the 11 regions right here that are in Phase 4. And if you see right here, this level 3 for high risk under the Phase 4 allows for those high-risk sports to play conference games in Kane and DuPage County non-con games. Originally, a couple days ago, this was still level 2, which would only allow those high-risk sports to inter-squad scrimmage. So we are making progress within the state of Illinois. The IHSA has a board meeting on Wednesday, the 27th of January, and this is a very important meeting, and I just want to let all you guys know to keep a lookout for 818 or our website and social media on the announcement and information that comes from that meeting. We are anticipating that modified season schedules for the remainder of the school year come from that meeting. So please keep a lookout, because a lot is going to change mid next week. And I want to make sure that we're all up to date and up to speed. The second thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about is our Super Bowl squares. Our Booster Club does an absolute tremendous job in this Super Bowl fundraiser. And I know with COVID, it is very difficult. We usually have a viewing party with food and drinks at Elmhurst Knights of Columbus on York Street. But because of COVID-19, and we are making sure that we're all staying safe, we will be there from noon to 3 o'clock at the Elmhurst Knights of Columbus, just to have day of game sales to make it easier for you guys to purchase squares. Up here we have $10 squares, 20, 50, and then a super 50 that is paid out at halftime, and then the 2-minute remaining in the game. This guy right here, Josh Rickert, does a tremendous job. He is our secretary of the Booster Club. He runs the show. He organizes it all. Please reach out to him via email, Josh and Mary Rickert at sbcglobal.net. He will make sure that you will have all the information that you need on the pools, the boards, and also payment process. So I will stop my share here. Also with the squares, half the money is paid out to our winners. And half goes to our athletic department, which in turn goes directly to our student athletes to provide the resources that they need to compete at a very high level in the state of Illinois. So thank you so much for supporting IC Catholic Prep Athletics through our Booster Club fundraisers throughout the year. I know it's been a very difficult time, but I want to make sure that I go out there and thank you guys. They're working hard to raise money for our student athletes, and I appreciate every dollar that comes in. So thank you so much. Without further ado, our guest today is the leader of our boys basketball program. He has been a part of IC Catholic Prep for over a couple decades. Actually, he's been a part of IC Catholic Prep boys basketball at least for 4 decades, a span of 4 decades, as he is a graduate of 1997, went on to be an assistant coach here, and now he is in his 9th year as the head coach. He has won 3 IBCA District 7 Coach of the Year awards, multiple 20-win seasons, regional championship, Sweet 16. Coach TJ Tyrrell joins us today on the podcast, and I hope you enjoy this as much as I do, because I'm a hoops guy, and this was very fun for me to catch up with them. Typically, I would see them pretty much every day over the winter months, but with the craziness of basketball season this year, it was great for me to catch up with them, and I hope you really enjoy catching up with them too. So thanks a lot. God bless, and go Knights.
Yeah. So yeah, just got something in. Now we're all just sitting there. So
all right, we're rolling, and I want to, thank you for jumping on here. Usually I would see you almost every day given this typical basketball season or around the holidays. So, just first and foremost, Happy New Year, and how was your How was your holiday with your family? How was your holiday without basketball for the first
Yeah.
time probably ever?
Yeah, it was, yeah, probably ever. It was great for the family. You
Yeah.
know, we both loved it from that standpoint, but got a lot of projects done, you know, spent a lot of money shopping online too. Um, I'm building like desks and reorganizing things, and yeah, you can tell I need something in my life to to put my focus and attention to, because playing video games with the kids, and that got old after a while.
Yeah, it got crazy. I was like, what am I supposed to do with myself for the first time for me too? It's like not a part of a team or anything going on, like a Christmas tournament or traveling with the college team. Like I was like, what am I supposed to be doing? You know, but it was good to hang out with my daughter because you know, we have one coming again in like 3 weeks here, so it was nice to be able to spend the time with just the three of us.
Heck yeah. Yeah, that's, well, yeah, it's a real important time too. I mean, you know, Natalie liked it too, because I did a lot of cleaning up of the house and putting stuff away. And yeah, there's some expectations set now, I think.
Yeah, now back to, if we get back to reality, it's gonna have to be another culture shock again, a little
Yeah.
change. But one thing that's unique about it, I wanted to get you on here. Not only are you a head coach of, you know, a major program at IC, but just the fact that you have been here for a long time. And some people don't know that you didn't start off here. Although your dad was a graduate here at IC, you didn't start your high school career at IC. So I know it was a while ago now, and I'm not going to date you, but let's talk about that transition, that decision to come to IC, and how IC welcomed you. What was the whole thought process that you
Yeah.
remember going through it?
Yeah, I mean, now that you say it, it's pretty interesting, because so many connections and paths that I've gone down in my life were because of going to IC. You know what I mean? So my wife Natalie, we met at IC. I'm coaching because I went to IC. I played college basketball, you know, because of the opportunities I got at IC. Just a lot of neat little connections over the years that hoops has brought in my life in IC. But yeah, so I went to a big public school, Downers North. I went to a Catholic school, St. Joe's in Downers, growing up. So I ended up didn't want to go to Montini. That was kind of like the way many of the kids were going, and I had a buddy that was going to North. So I said, let me check it out, and I went there. It was a culture shock with how big the school that is, and I got an opportunity to play hoops. Probably the best thing for me was I went to the summer camp ahead of time, because there was like 65 kids that came out for the team at North. So it was a challenge for sure. So I was able to go to the summer camp, and the coaches saw me there. And at the time, the head coach was Al Biancalana, who's IBCA Hall of Famer, and was coached at the college level. He's now the head coach at Glenbard East. So yeah, made the freshman team, but I was on the B team, and I just busted my butt, and just worked really hard at my game, and I loved hoops. And so next year I came back, I was ended up starting on the sophomore team. And then I wanted some more opportunity to grow my game, and I thought a smaller school would have given me that chance for hoops. I didn't want to play in college. I was a point guard, pretty well my whole career. And a fun fact, actually, my freshman B coach was Jim Vera. He moved up to be the sophomore head coach, was Jim Vera. And then at the end of the season, he announces he got the head baseball job at a school called Immaculate Conception in Elmhurst. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm transferring there. I got to, so I pull him aside. I'm like, I'm going there, and we're both going to like have this career together where we, and he was an assistant at IC. So interesting. I was with him for 4 years, even though we were both at two different schools. So it was a tough decision going to IC from the standpoint of I didn't know anybody there. I had a car at that point. My parents let me drive from Downers, and but I had to sit out. There was a chance I thought the IHSA would give me a waiver and let me participate so they said no, and then we did our letter of appeal, and then they said no again. And I was in Cindy's Thomas class, who just retired recently from IC. And I remember Coach Bongiorno came and pulled me out of class and told me I wasn't going to play that year. And I cried as a kid would, that loved basketball so much. And but it kind of opened my eyes to some other things about IC. Downers North, it's so big, and a lot of the kids get siloed into things. So I only basketball, and then I ran cross country to get in shape for basketball. Basketball was very competitive at the school, so I wasn't this phenom all-star. I had to work for what I got, so I put a lot of focus and time into that. And then you had your theater group, you had some of the clubs and different things, and a lot of kids went that way, and you're kind of in different groups. So, but when I was at IC, they're like, hey, you want to do this, you want to do that? I ended up getting in the school musical because the girls were in the school musical, right? And a couple of my buddies were like, hey, come do this. Well, I ended up getting the lead in a musical, and I can't sing. So so that was a little interesting. But I guess I pulled it off as an actor, and just a lot of different things, being with the Christian Service and National Honor Society. I just kind of flourished by being in this environment. You got 2,000 kids at Downers North, and then I came to IC, and I was like, hey, let's try a lot of different stuff. I'm going to make this a great experience. So even though my junior year was a tough one, I practiced with the team, and then I had a really good senior year, and it all worked out in the end. And so yeah.
That's awesome. I appreciate you walking me through that. I didn't even know half that stuff, right? And that's why I asked the question, for not only me, but for anybody listening or watching. I feel the same way too, Coach. I went to St. Patrick High School, an all-boys Catholic school, so there's some similarities to IC, but it's also very different. It was bigger. There was 1,000 kids when I was there. We had 250 in my graduating class. But I felt the same way as you did at the public school, where I played golf and basketball my freshman, sophomore year. And then by the time I got to the varsity basketball program, there was so much emphasis on the basketball program that I didn't do anything but play basketball.
Yeah.
And it really was shocking. And it's so evident when you get to IC and you're in that community and that culture. It drives being involved in so many different things. I was shocked to hear that basketball players were in this, in the fall and, in the fall play of the spring musical. I was shocked because you don't see that many places, or
yeah.
So
a team,
right. That's what about a 3-star athlete also being very successful captain of the math team, and competing at a high level in that too. I was like, there's something going on here that you don't see very often, So it's interesting that you were involved in stuff. So that also goes into your coaching, where you're also preaching becoming a multi-sport athlete, and and how important is it for your student athletes to be involved in other stuff at IC?
Yeah, I think that's the special thing about IC is how much commitment is from the students. The kids academically, they all rise to that level. They see their peers putting in the work and doing their homework, and I see a lot of them really stepping up because of that. But being on the multi-sport, the reason why our programs are successful is because the students that are coming in there and the culture that was there before them is built on a winning mindset. We might not win every championship, but the kids go in expecting to work hard and succeed. And that goes from sport to sport. The accountability piece, I think I'm very adamant about guys playing other sports that they do better academically when they're have that commitment, as opposed to sitting around and what should I do next type of thing. You know, when you have that rigor of, all right, I got to go practice, I got to get my homework done, let's do this. Not all kids, you know, survive to that or step up to that, but I think it helps a lot of kids create good habits from that standpoint.
Now you are going, so this 21-22 season would have been your 9th as a head coach, correct?
Yep.
Right. So like when you look at the decade, you've put in 9 years of work. So like, let's go to this question. Let's talk about if I walked into a practice or if somebody walked into a practice, what type of identity or so would I see? What, you know, what do you guys hang your hat on for, you know, IC who?
Yeah. There's a few times I catch myself, I'll just kind of pause and be mindful of what's actually going on. You know, we get so entrenched in here's the next drill, here's what we're focused on, this concept, this fundamental. But when you sit back and you walk into a practice, you hear a lot of noise, and it's guys calling out, guys communicating, guys talking, guys yelling, ball, help. I love that. I love when you can walk in the gym and you just hear everybody communicating and being really loud. That makes me proud. And it's kind of have been handed off as a culture year to year, right? So you get these good leaders that really buy in and they see the success of the team before. And then there's just this formula. They take on those attributes and it's contagious. So the guys that are vocal help get the other guys to be vocal. So I love that. I think it's a good competitiveness that we have. You know, we typically start a practice. We'll do our dynamic warm up. We'll get loose doing some shooting drill or full court, you know, layup drill. But a lot of it is we do breakdown fundamental stuff. And even in terms of teaching concepts, like, you know, we're primarily a man-to-man team. We'll do a lot of breakdown and a lot of half court. The kids don't like as much. They just want to scrimmage and get up and down. But we've had a lot of success just helping kids become high basketball IQ players. And that's what we try to instill. We have some smart kids in general and that work hard. And so that's what I hope somebody that would come in and would see good organization, great energy, and just kids working really hard.
That reminds me of two quotes that I've always heard in practices from the coaches that I've had, and one is, you know, like a quiet gym is a losing gym, or a quiet team is a losing team, right? You know, if you're not talking, you're not winning. And
I like that.
And another one is something that resonated with me from a player and also as a coach was, you know, players don't talk for two reasons. It's they don't know or they don't care, right? You almost wish they just don't know so you can then teach them, right? But if they don't care, we got bigger problems on our hands. But
I like both of those.
Those are two reasons why people don't talk in a gym. So a loud gym is always a good gym, but you got to be wary about just squeaky feet too. You know, you don't want to mistake activity for achievement, right? And just people just going out there squeaking feet just to make it loud, right?
Yeah, well, I miss the squeaky feet right now because we don't hear them. But no, you're exactly right.
So let's just focus on the decade, right? Because you got a really cool tweet here that you posted on Instagram not too long, or on Twitter not too long ago. We've had a lot of success in the last decade, right? 4 conference championships, 3 regional championships, 2 Sweet 16s, a lot of 20-win seasons. Conference player of the years. We had some good, you know, last year, my first year watching IC basketball, I was impressed with some of the talent that we had on the team. Talk a little bit about some of these moments. Anything stick out to you among these, you know, these conference or regional titles?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, I know when I first started, you know, this is my 19th year overall. Wins were hard to come by. And it was cool seeing the culture and the winning tradition evolve. We had, right before I took over, those 2 years, we had some really talented players. And it was a little before that that really helped start changing the mindset. We had Brian Mulligan, that was just a really good, one of our top 5 leading scorers of all time. And he was on a team that we only really were 5 to 7 deep, and he got us very close to offsetting a top 5 team in the state. We ended up losing on the last second shot. We had a chance to win on a last second shot his senior year to beat a top 5 team to win the regional, and we didn't get it that year. But the guys on the team saw the other guys and how much it hurt to watch that trophy walk out of your home gym, that regional championship plaque, and watch other guys cut down the net. So, that motivation has really helped carry the waves throughout the last 10 to 20 years. But really good team. We had Demetrius Carr, who was a man amongst boys, and he helped coach, came back, helped coach last year.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was a junior with Brian Harvey, who was another man amongst boys, and John Chang and several other really talented guys. They won a conference championship in the Suburban Christian. It was the conference. We were Suburban Catholic for a while and then involved in Suburban Christian. So that was one of the top teams that I think we've ever had at the school. But we fell short in the regional championship that year. But then the next year, when I took over, it was really cool because I was coaching the sophomore team. A lot of those guys I brought them up as freshmen. So I got to coach them and be with them for 4 years. Mm-hmm. So guys like Clark Brinkman, Anthony Taylor, Ross Fleming, these guys really busted their butt and they bought in. They bought into what we were trying to do. They worked really hard. We beat Pats that year on high school lights.
Yeah, it was a big game. Yeah.
Which was really cool. And then we had a freshman that I don't usually bring up freshmen, brought up a freshman named Rashawn Epstein, and he was quite the athlete. He's just finishing up his Division I football career. But, that was a really talented group. And that group, prior to that was my second year, I'm sorry. The first year we ended up losing to Aurora Christian in the regional championship. And that was Demetrius's, that was that team. Demetrius was a senior with them. And we lost on a last second putback shot. And that was another one of those things that really hurt, especially as first year head coach. And then seeing Demetrius have to leave the program and graduate, and seeing some of the other seniors leave, like Adam Mullers, a guy that took 19 charges that year, which is, insane. But it taught the other guys, like I mentioned, that other group that, all right, we can do this. And the next year we came back, played Aurora Christian, and we pounded them at their place. So, the adversity, the losses really help us. But, we've been really fortunate. We've had several Chang boys that have come through and have been really good. Another really strong team that we had was we had guys that really bought in again, and we didn't have like superstars. We didn't have that dominant D1 player, but we just had guys that wanted to come work. They loved each other. They bought into what the coaches were trying to do, and we all came together for the common goal. So that was the team with Alex Muir. We had Nico Gaudio, who's come back and helped coach, and Kevin Chang, and like Luke Rickabine, and Amari Reed. We had a lot of great guys just filling in the roles there. So those two teams that I just mentioned, both were regional champions, made it. We're conference champions. Both teams were conference champions, and we made it to the Sweet 16. So it was a good run with both groups, and but we've had a lot of good players, in that span.
Your basketball in Illinois is something special, right? Like, especially Chicagoland area, and even down in Peoria, it's some powerful stuff, and a lot of legends have come out of it, and a lot of coaching legends have come out of it too. So what does it mean? Because I know you have, I think, 3 Coach of the Year honors from the Illinois Basketball Coaches Association. So, like, what does that mean for you to win that, given the fact that you're in the company of some incredible coaches, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's something you really appreciate. I really appreciate, especially, you know, you have this great team and that's why I got it, because of the team. But, you know, when you have the success with the team, and then that's kind of icing on the cake, you know, but what's cool about that, like you said, I got to go down to Redbird Arena, and they honor all these great coaches, and you really feel you're a part of a fraternity. You know, you go out afterwards and share stories, have a drink with them, and you know, I got a really cool picture with Bailey, Pingator, and Harrington. You know, and I'm in there. You know, there's probably 2,000 wins amongst. That's what I said. I said,
Yeah, I remember that picture.
2,000 wins are here combined. You know,
yeah.
and at the time probably had 100 of those. So it was pretty cool to be around such successful, dedicated guys to high school hoops. So I was looking back at, you know, you start to connect, you start to become friends with these coaches. And that's what I really appreciate. You go to battle with them, but then you start to begin to really respect them, and you're connecting on Facebook, you're sending them texts, and you're sharing tips on how to beat opponents. And, you know, so I miss that. And even with the officials, you know, like I'm connected with a couple officials on Facebook, and you're seeing them that they got a fraternity too, and it's all kind of together.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I know a lot is up in the air right now, and I was only, you know, for people that are listening that don't know, but a lot of people do, that the 2019-2020 season was my first year really watching IC basketball, given it was my first year there. And I saw a lot of, you know, not only the guys that were on the team as juniors and seniors, but even the young guys coming up. You brought up a couple sophomores, and like, you know, Antonio Richardson, Augie Wassman, and Johnny Hilgard, and there's promise there. And, you know, I know that this year's up in the air, so you would be like, oh wow, that's a coach's dream to be like, okay, I got these guys for 2 more seasons, right? And they're playing meaningful varsity minutes. So like looking forward, what are your expectations? What is your mindset going into the next couple of years with these kids?
Yeah. You know, this has been we were really excited about this group coming in, and a lot of the guys have been with me since they were sophomores. So from that standpoint, I feel bad from my guys not getting the full experience, but we're still holding out hope. Yeah, you know, it's always cool when you can bring up, come playoff time, February, March, and you start to bring up those guys that you know are going to be rocks for your program over the next few years. And we were able to bring up those 3 guys that you mentioned, and they just busted their butt. And it was so cool. You know, we talked about some of those heartbreaking losses that pushed us forward and motivated us to have successes the next year. And I mean, that game was so fun in the regional championship that we just came up a little short on Northridge's home court, Northridge Prep. And it was just a back and forth battle. And there were so many big plays, and it was just a well-fought high school basketball game. You know, standing room only, cool environment. That's why, you know, we love this game. And you had sophomores contributing, right? I mean, John Hilgard had a monster 3-point play and knocked down some NBA range threes, and Antonio's just scrapping, fighting for rebounds, and battling with these seniors that from Northridge that a couple of them were going to play college hoops. They're playing college hoops right now. So it's really cool to see, and the success that Coach Nitchin and the sophomore group had together, and a nice freshman class that came in this year.
Yeah.
So we're very optimistic too with what we have, and it's good to see guys that are hungry and want to work. And you know, before the contact days got shut down, commitment, everybody was there that had signed up, and on the varsity side, pretty much everybody was there every day ready to work. So you know, that is good. That's a good thing when you don't have to chase guys down and say, hey, where you at, and hold them accountable. These guys showed up,
Yeah, the nice thing is I went to a couple of those contact days and they were getting competitive because we could scrimmage against each other. And if we get our region into tier 1, we're back into that parental consent inter squad scrimmaging. So they're going to be jonesing to get back in the gym. So I'm really excited about it. But hey, let's wrap this up. I want to, thank you once again for jumping on. I think it's important that our community knows who you are and your passion for, your team and your student athletes and IC in general. So thanks a lot for coming on here and sharing your history and your passion for the game of basketball and IC. So I'm sure we'll be in touch. I'm sure we'll be in touch very shortly with IHSA decisions on the cusp here for next week. So
Yeah, thank you. I'm thankful to be it's a great community. I mean, that's why I come back every year. It's just great kids, great families. So thank you.
yeah, awesome.